Welcome, everyone, to Innovative Events Podcast. I am Amy Slater, and today I'm excited to bring in again, we have Michael Hinkle with us from JBI Consulting. Welcome, Michael.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you for joining us again. I'm just going to update everybody who is hopefully on here now and plans to come see us again. We are going over your sales strategy. And so, with that, we have 10 episodes in this program. We have gone over episode 1 already, which was we're going over your book, Hunters versus Farmers,
Right.
and we're going through each chapter. And so we've done chapter 1, where we've talked about specifically hunters versus farmers and what's the difference between the two. Then we've done episode 2, where we've talked about treasure hunting basics, that mental toughness and hunting versus the farmers, cold calls. Then we've done episode 3. We have the gatekeepers, who is standing between you and the decision maker. Then we did episode 4, where we did relationships and sales. And here we are today. We're going to go on episode 5, nurturing relationships. And so I'm hearing that this topic is so important because you have 2 chapters discussing relationships in your book. So,
Yeah.
Mike, please go ahead and get us started off with your chapter 5.
Well, first off, sales is all about building relationships, period, end of story. If you're not selling a product that's a one-time purchase, then you need to put yourself in a position where that client feels comfortable coming back to you again and again and again to continue that business relationship with you. And dare I say, even if you think you're selling a product that they're not going to buy again, even people buy more than one house. So I don't think there's any product where you wouldn't want to develop a relationship with your clients. So that's how important I consider it. In working with clients and trying to build that relationship, one of the initial things that I really focus on to make sure that we're building that rapport and that I'm making sure I'm talking to him and where he's at, not where I'm at. And that's an important component. Meet the client where they're at, not where you want them to be. That's where they're at, so meet them there. And one of the things I use a lot to really get the visualization in my mind when I'm dealing with someone for the first time is I really pay close attention to their body language. I pay close attention to their verbal suggestions that they're giving me. For example, I don't know if you can really tell from here, but if you were sitting in front of me, you would notice that I'm sitting forward in my chair. To me, that says that I've got something important to say to you. When I lean back in my chair, I'm taking more of a position of listening and processing what you're saying. And, so body language does play an important role in that. And paying attention to how people are interacting with you just from the clues that they're giving you, not the verbal ones, but the ones that they're giving you that tell you what it's all about. The other thing I do a lot when I meet a client in their office for the first time is I pay attention to the surroundings. I look at the walls. I pay attention to what memorabilia they have out there. Can I find a talking point that we might be familiar with? If I walk into an office and he has a World Series pitcher there, and I can obviously ask the question, oh, do you like baseball? I find other ways to connect with my clients and build the relationships. If I see a lot of pictures of the family, I start asking questions about the family. If I don't see any pictures of the family and I see just diplomas and things that congratulated him on the job well done, then I tend to keep it more business focused.
Okay. So what happens if you go into an office and say like you said, baseball, but you want to have a conversation and you're not very knowledgeable on that? How would you start that conversation with something that's kind of not in your era?
I ask questions. I don't make statements. So if I didn't know anything about baseball, oh, you like baseball? Well, what drew you to that?
Gotcha.
That's really cool. I'd like to understand the game more, but I don't know much about it.
All right.
You don't have to be an expert on it to have a conversation about it. You can be a non-expert and just ask questions and let them explain their passion. If it's their passion, now you're talking their love language.
I like it. No, that's good. That's good. Many of us walk in there and there's so many things outside of our knowledge point, and you don't want to go in, looking silly.
Yeah, well, don't say something. Never make a statement you don't know.
Perfect.
So if you don't know something, then admit you don't know it. Don't pretend you do. That people see through that faster than anything else.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. It looks like we did have a question come through. So let's see what the question is. All right. Do you look for clues to what the client might really need?
Yes, I do. And again, there's all kinds of clues that'll tell me that, and a lot of that's coming out of your verbal conversation. Um, I make a point of asking only open-ended questions as often as I can. I try not to ask something that's easy to answer. Um, Short of trying to get some really definitive information, I never use yes and no questions. If I
Okay.
ask you a question that's a yes or a no, we're getting into the really nitty gritty. If you tell me that you're looking for a way to make better widgets, I'm going to ask you, well, what ways do you think are the best ways to make better widgets? What have you been playing with, or how do you think we can improve on this? Because they're going to tell me what their thoughts are, and they're going to tell me what the problems are with their thoughts, because that's where their focus is. And once they start sharing me what the problems are and making a better widget, I now can go into my memory bank, figure out, oh, I just remembered I got something from engineering saying we've come up with this new process of making the best widget. And we do this, this, and this, and provide it to our clients, and they're able to assemble it and get this widget out in record time. So, I'm asking questions, and then I'm listening to the answers. I'm trying to insert us where we can best fit their needs as they tell me. Now, one of the things that I caution you about in doing this process, and this is critical, if they say that part of the process of building a better widget is using something that your competition is providing,
Mhm.
don't challenge their choice on using the competition. Learn what the competition's widget is, learn how they put it together, and then figure out how you do a superior job. Don't deal in the negatives, deal only in the positives.
Okay. All right. And our next question here is, how does that approach relate to relationships? Is that not normal business development with a client?
Well, I consider relationships and business development the whole thing. My relationship building with a client is building or just building a relationship with a client. Yes, it is very similar. Yes, it is the same process. You are very correct. But again, what the way I develop it is a little bit different. I'm trying to be a team player on their team. So I'm not looking for ways to separate myself out because I have a better widget. I'm a better widget maker than the competition. I'm trying to separate myself out by being a better business partner to them than the competition. If the competition makes a better widget, I'm going to tell them the competition makes a better widget. And I'm going to tell them that if they drop the ball someplace, come see me and I'll see if I can't pick it up for them. And that's not a normal. I tell you what, if you walked into your sales manager and told them you're gonna refer the best product out there, they're gonna remind you that the best product's always their product. Well, it's not always the case. And no, that isn't business development. That's trying to convince somebody that they should do what you want them to do. And I'm not about that. I don't tell clients what they need to do. I tell clients what I can provide for them to help them get to where they want to go. And at the very beginning, I said, meet them where they're at. Don't make them come to you. One of the most important things that you need to remember when you're nurturing that relationship, whether we call it building a relationship with a client or business development, you've got to constantly be paying attention to what's going on in their mind, what's going on in their world, and seeking out the needs that they have and that you can satisfy. But you can't satisfy a need by convincing them that they need to purchase your product. That's not a need satisfaction. That's you trying to fulfill your needs. So if you walk in and tell them all the great stuff about your product and why they should be buying it without never knowing what their problems are,
Mhm.
that's the typical role of someone doing business development. I take it a step farther. I don't go in and tell them the great things about my product till I understand what they're looking for from my product. Then I tell them about the great things from my product that would solve those problems.
So then, can we go in a different angle where, because I think of that on the business development side, right? You're talking about products, the differentiators, your competition. So if we're looking then on the other side, maybe more in the relationship aspect, what are some conversations you can hold with your lead, your current client, and what are those boundaries of those types of conversations you have to build that relationship and keep it professional and healthy?
Well, in real estate, there's an adage that says the most important three things in real estate is is location, 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 in that order. The three most important things in sales when you're building that business relationship, when you're nurturing your overall relationship with your client, is pain points, pain points, pain points.
Mm.
Those are the top three. And number four happens to also be pain points. The client doesn't care, and I've used this before in a previous episode. The client doesn't care about what you know until they know about how much you care. They don't need you in their life to have one more person to just give money to you for something that they're not sure is going to solve their problem. They're looking for people that are going to solve their problems. And how can you even begin to focus on what my problems are if you
Mhm.
haven't talked to me long enough to figure out what my pain points are?
Right.
I'm a baker and I have to have fresh bread every day. Well, you guys don't bake bread on Saturdays, so Sundays I don't have fresh bread. I either need to be closed or find a different vendor because day old bread costs me money.
Right. Right.
You know.
Okay, I apologize. I'm going to interject in here. We do have another question that came through. So, how do you convince clients that they are doing the right thing when buying from you?
You reinforce their decisions to make a purchase. You find out what their pain points are. You find out what they're looking for from the product, and
Mhm.
you convince them that this is what's going. And it's a service too. So I'm being very generalistic today, but I
Mhm.
don't mean to be. I mean every time I use the word product, I mean product or service. So what you need to do is convince them. You don't need to convince them of the thing. If they're making the correct selection for what their pain points are, you're just reinforcing it. I don't convince you that you made the right decision. I convince you that the decision you made was right for what you want to do.
Mm.
That's all I'm doing. I'm providing you enough information for you to solve your own problem. If I have to convince you buying my widget is the way to fame and fortune, um, one of the two of us is lying to you and the other one's delusional.
Okay, so what if you have a client and you've been working for them, you're seeing this gap in their process. What's the best way to approach that? Because maybe it might be offering an alternative service to them, but you don't want
And
to
I
be
think
salesy. So
that's
what does that look like?
And that's exactly what I do when I hit that situation.
Mhm.
And you'll hit it a lot. You'll see that they've got something that's just not quite firing on all four cylinders or six cylinders or how many cylinders you want to have.
Mhm.
And you can make some suggestions. The way I personally do it, and this is very generic, I will see something that where there's a hole in the process, something that I know could help them do better, and I'll just merely make a statement.
Mm.
Some of my clients that work in this industry have done this because it achieves that this much faster.
Oh, okay.
Now, I didn't tell them they were wrong. I just said your peers have found this process. Would that work for you?
I like that. I like that. And then they're hearing someone else is trying this, and you can give those results. How has it helped them?
Exactly. It's a testimonial from someone that never opens their mouth to the client.
Wonderful. Okay, so then, all right, let me throw more of a curveball at you. So, say you have a client that, or that doesn't even want to have much of a relationship. And I can say I have one like this where I've tried going to their office, I've tried calling them and emailing and zero responses. How do you build a relationship with someone who's dodging you?
Well, that calls for a really tough business decision. If someone's constantly dodging you and they're not purchasing your product, um, there is a point in time where you need to just shake the dust off your shoes
Hmm.
and move on. Um, if you can't connect with them in any way, shape, or form, and they're not making any purchases from you, they're telling you that they're not going to. And it could be, and excuse, I'm not stereotyping anything. I'm just trying to put it in real terms. It
Right.
could be as simple as they only will deal with a male in your particular role, or they'll only deal with a female in that particular role, or they won't deal with blonde females in that particular role.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of reasons why people choose to not do business with you. And there is a point where you've just spun everything you can spin out there, and there's just something still blocking the process.
Mhm.
um, and you've expended a lot of energy. Sometimes clients and even potential clients need to be fired in favor of a better choice.
Yeah.
So let them work themselves out of your business life. You had a lot to, and that's not a negative. You had a lot to offer them. You could provide them a better product or service. And if nothing else, just the fact that you're there with that tenacity should prove to them that you're gonna be more attentive to their account, but they don't see it for whatever reason.
Mhm.
So I usually just go, look, too bad for you. You're not going to benefit from working with me. Have a nice career. Audio.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't actually have that conversation, but in my mind, that's the conversation that takes place.
Right.
Um, because I don't burn bridges. Because someday somebody is going to rediscover me from that organization, more than
Mhm.
likely because I'm out there and I've got my own reputation in the business, and they're going to talk to me again. And when that happens, that's when you handled the process correctly. And that has happened to me.
Mhm.
Um, in an earlier chapter, we talked about gatekeepers and how I was stuck outside looking through the window. And I finally got in past the gatekeeper and started a relationship with the organization. But I
Mhm.
couldn't get a deal from him until that person left the organization. And funny
Mhm.
thing, he went to another organization. He was no longer the DM. They were doing all their business with me, and I won him over that way.
Ah.
And but
Well,
I
it's
was
just
never going to get through the door. I got through the door, but I was never going to get the deal,
right.
and until the change was made. But I stayed tenacious on it. I didn't call him. I didn't call on him once a week and keep trying to
Mhm.
beat it down. I understood, and here's the secret. And here's the reason why I stayed attached. The secret behind it. I started researching it, and I talked to some other people, and I found out the guy had. And this is a very unique situation. The guy
Mhm.
had a problem. The guy had a problem with alcohol. The rep he was using had been there for him and helped him work through this problem. There was no way I was knocking her off the pedestal. No way. She had been too important in his life. So I
Mhm.
just had to wait my turn. And sometimes that's what it is. You wait your turn.
Okay. And then what happens if it's just a client that is wanting something else? Maybe you're not providing what it is they're looking for.
Worst case scenario, bring in an associate to work the account with you. Half a commission is better than no commission.
Yes. Yeah. And again, uh, you're working in relationship with your partnerships, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that continues. Relationship building goes all the way up and down the line.
Agree. Agree. All right. We do have another question here. Okay. What are your general rules of engagement when talking to clients?
Um, my general rules are that I ask open-ended questions. Don't make judgments. Don't convince them that your decisions are the right decisions. Find out what their pain points are. Find out what their interests are. Find out what problems they're trying to solve, and present resolutions to those problems in a positive format. And I can't stress that enough. You don't want to sit there and tell a business owner that's pulling in, a couple of million a year in sales and making a fairly good living for himself that he's not smart enough to figure out how to make the best widget, because only you know that. And the only way to make a good widget is by buying my widget. Well, if he's doing pretty good for himself, which he should be if you really want him as a client, he doesn't need your business knowledge to be successful. He's already there. So quit telling him what he's doing wrong. Tell him what he's doing right. I mean, when's the last time you as a salesperson appreciated somebody saying, you got that all wrong? You know?
Yeah, well, and each person's very different. Some people take that very well, and others are like, I don't want to work with this person.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
one likes no
Oh,
one likes to be told that they don't understand something.
right.
Whether they're right or wrong, they don't like it.
Okay, so then you're saying keep doing the positive reinforcement.
Always. I can't stress that enough. I I see way too many salespeople, and it happens to me in my life all the time, where someone will come and tell me how I'm making a wrong decision and this is a better decision. And I
Mm,
just want to scream at them,
yeah.
okay, you're trying to get into my wallet and you're doing this by telling me I don't know what I'm doing. Well, my wallet doesn't have enough room for you in here.
That's great. Okay. Well, then let's see. So, can you give us an example for you in sales? What are some things that you found, some real life stories that you've experienced with these relationships?
Um, One thing is that okay? Did we have a question coming in?
Oh, yeah, yeah, we can jump to the question. Here, let's see. Okay, so the question we did get from a listener is, okay, so if that's correct, then why would they buy from a vendor if I'm telling them to say they are always right?
You okay? I am telling you to tell them that they're right in their business decisions. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't make a business decision to use your product. If you're focusing on thinking that you're the only good product out there, then that's not a positive. What you're trying to do is figure out, again, when learning their pain points, you're trying to figure out what parts of the process don't work effectively for them. And then
Mhm.
you're highlighting how your product or service fills in the void in that process to make their life a little easier. What you're looking for is, and to put it in a really simple way, help me help you. Tell me what doesn't work, and I'll tell you what I have that can maybe work better for you. That's
Oh,
what I mean by a positive reinforcement. Don't come up to me and tell me, using product ABC, everybody's firing them right and left because they're no good and they can't put together two screws and have a nut on it. That's telling you're not convincing me that you have a better product. All you're convincing me is that you don't think very much of your competition. That doesn't give me any reassurance that you're going to be in my corner for me when things go wrong, because I'm going to eventually get two screws from you that don't have a nut on it. It's going to happen. If mistakes occur everywhere, we are all fallible. Everybody that works with you and everybody that works for you is a fallible individual. We all make mistakes, and it's, dare I say, it's on a daily basis. So by picking on the mistakes somebody else made, all you're doing is saying, well, they're human, but I'm not, because I'm superhuman, because I never make a mistake. Until you finally do, then you have to backtrack. So,
yes.
it's not that we're being Pollyanna and telling them everything positive about what they're doing. We're still trying to find those holes in the process that need to be filled, because there is no such thing as a perfect process.
Can you give
Everything
us
everything moves forward. I'm sorry.
no, no, you're good. Can you give us a real life story where you've experienced that with one of your clients and how you handled that?
Certainly. The Okay. I had a client once that was constantly telling me how great the competition was because they never missed a closing. They always got all the closings. So I took a look at our track record with them because we were doing a portion of the business. It was about 2/3 the competition, 1/3 us. And I paid attention to what was going on, and I gathered up some intel. And so I went through our intel and I said, oh, okay. I came back after a quarter of following the closings, and I found out we hadn't closed a single thing that wasn't on time either. So, I pointed that out to him because someone in his organization was giving us a bad rep, even though we weren't deserving of the rep. And that's the problem I discovered during this process. There was someone in the back office that was not a fan of me.
Gotcha.
So I had to give him enough details to support that. But then I took it a step further. Okay, they close your deals on time, but when do they get you your money? So I found a way where we could get their money to them a day faster than the competition was. So I didn't say that they're getting to you a day slower. I just merely said, what if we could get it to you on the same day? That's money in your pocket. Is that not? And those two things, once I pointed out, took us from being in second place to being at least competitive, if not in first place in his mind. From that point, we moved forward. Eventually, we earned 100% of the business because, again, people make mistakes. And, the competition decided to go in and attack it, and telling them how, my move wasn't right for them because of this, that, and the other, yada, 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 because they couldn't do it. They couldn't figure out how we could do it. We were doing something wrong or against the law or something. And they talked themselves out of the account.
Right, right. No, it definitely sounds like it. That looks like a sticky situation. But you were able to recover.
Yeah. And that tenaciousness is what you have to demonstrate when you're in sales. Period. In the story. I mean,
Mm.
there is no, if you're not looking, if you don't wake up every morning in sales and say, okay, what are my opportunities today? And remember, what I call opportunities, other people call problems, but we don't have problems in sales. We have opportunities. So what are my opportunities today to go impress somebody to make sure I get more of their business?
Well, that's a great mindset. Great mindset. Thank you. Okay, we have another question. How important is the art of negotiating when in sales?
Negotiations, historically, people look at negotiations as a one side wins situation. When you're in sales, you can't do that. Who pays when you're in sales, when you're negotiating between yourself and the company? Who's actually cutting you the check every other Friday? The company.
Mhm.
But surprisingly so, where's the company getting money to pay you every other Friday? Oh, that's from the client. So the client's paying you and the company's paying you. So who's your master here? Who are you? Who do you report to? In my world as a sales rep, I always remembered that when I was in front of the client, I was a representative of the company. When I was in front of the company, I was the representative of the client. I never took a position in either situation where I couldn't come back. I always had them focus on, what do you want me to take to the client? Well, I'm pretty sure the client's not going to go for that. We've already talked about it, and I'm fighting for what they've told me they want. And then when I'm in front of the client, I'm going, no, the company won't go for that because we can't do that, or we've tried that before and it doesn't work because of this, and so at best, I consider the most effective negotiation on my part
Mhm.
is when both the company and the client concede just a little bit. If
Mhm.
everybody loses, everybody wins. If the company, I had a big negotiation once on a deal where we made a mistake and it was going to cost the company a lot of money. The company started here, the client started here.
Mhm.
Somehow we met here. Neither party was happy with here, but they all understood it, and we continued to do business with them.
Mhm.
I didn't lose a single deal. I kept 100% of their business because they knew I was fighting for them.
Well, so then, okay, now we're talking about relationships between your client and now relationships of you working with your company. So,
Correct.
what advice would you give for a salesperson working within the company and
Okay.
that relationship together?
You just got your first sale, or the first sale of the week, or the first sale of the day. You head on over to the office, you walk in, you turn it in, and you let the people inside the office take over. Your job's not done. It's not done at all. It's not even close to being done. Those
Right.
people inside the office, they're important to your success. So
Mhm.
you need to make sure they understand how important this transaction is to you. They may not understand it. There may be parts of it that they don't get. There may be parts of it that confuses them. They may not even like the client because the client was rude to them on the phone last Tuesday. It doesn't matter. Your job is to keep this thing moving forward and to get all those rough spots cleaned up and edged off and sanded over so that the client sees a very hassle-free and problem-free transaction. So
Mhm.
the job of sales continues until the deal closes, not when you get the signed contract, but when the deal closes. So don't ever bring a contract in and say, my part's done, because my friend, it is not. Because there's a salesperson out there like me that's going to come in and follow you through the door, and they're going to walk that thing all the way to the end, and all of a sudden their clients are going to be in love with them, and your client's going to be looking at them going, why aren't I doing business with them?
Ah, yeah, you're right. It's not closed and done.
Until it's closed and done.
Agreed. All right, we do have another question here. What role does a customer account manager play in that process?
Just keeping people informed of the importance. Um, at one point in my career, I was a loan officer. So I would bring in a loan application and a package and give it to a processor. Well, the processor would start going through this loan package and say, well, these guys don't have any money, or this is wrong, or they don't do that, or look at their credit report, it's ugly. And, they start drawing an opinion about the transaction. Well,
Mhm.
my client was the builder who wanted this borrower to qualify. And I didn't think that we needed to put unqualified people into houses, but I worked that deal as long as I could until I found a way not to do it. So my job was to keep the processor focused on the transaction, not on what was wrong with the transaction. Every time she gave me something that was wrong with it, I found a solution to that problem. I went out, talked to the client, came back with a story to justify why that was there, that made sense so that we can continue moving forward. If I wasn't doing that and she was left to her own accord, she's already had a hardening of attitude about the transaction because of the basic stuff she's seen without any interaction with the people and having no background.
Mhm.
That deal's doomed. It's not going to close. And that's the same. And it's the same with every kind of transaction, no matter what it is.
Right.
You may bring in a service that your client desperately needs, but the people that are supposed to provide that service are desperately overloaded. And your client needs this by Thursday, and it fits better into their schedule on Friday, and you don't bother to talk to them. Your
Mhm.
client's going to be pissed off that the piece they showed up on Friday when you promised them they'd be there on Thursday. But you didn't even know that because you didn't spend any time trying to follow through with the transaction and making sure that things were moving forward the way they were.
Mm.
Um, I had a personal situation here recently where I had some termite work done for my house. One of the things that the guy promised me was that I had regular service and I had a credit card on the account. They weren't just going to charge the credit card. He was going to give me 6 months interest free to pay off this $4,000 amount of work.
Mhm.
Well, he didn't bother to fill the office in, and the day the work was done, they hit my credit card for 4 grand. So I
Oh.
called him up and said, "What happened to the 60-day interest free?" He goes, "Oh my God, they made a mistake. I told them." Well, no, dude, you should have been following through. This should have been an important
Mhm.
issue to you. This is what you promised me. I should have had to call you saying this did not happen.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
And this is where you don't underdeliver, right?
that's
You know
exactly
what?
what he did. He underdelivered. He
Mm.
promised me something, but didn't make sure that's the way it happened.
It was
Now,
done.
where was the breakdown in communication? I could tell you who he blamed.
Yeah.
Was that really the breakdown spot?
Yeah, no, and I think this is where, as a project manager, you're the one managing everybody handling that client and has their hands in it, making
Yeah,
sure everything systematically is working and in flow. You catch those errors because we are human.
yeah,
Each of us miss different things, but as the project manager, you catch those things and you make sure the flow goes well until this deal is done.
exactly. And by the fact you say an account manager, the question says an account manager. I'm going to assume this is somebody that considers them just the salesperson. Well, you're not just the salesperson. You are the quarterback of this transaction.
Mhm.
I don't care if they call you an account master, account manager, a vice president, the janitor. If you're bringing in business for someone and making promises to someone, you are the quarterback of this transaction. Play the role of the quarterback. Make sure that it gets handled the way it's supposed to be handled, and make sure what you promises you make it done. And if it's not happening just simply by talking to the people in the office and trying to gain their support, then you have every right to go to management and say, "Management, look, I've got a client. This is what they need. This is what we're giving them. It's not marrying up. What can we do to fix this?" You don't
Right.
get to tell the inside staff what to do or how to do it. You're right. As an account manager, a VP of sales, we don't tell the office staff what's right and wrong. They have a management structure that does that. But what you can do is use your ability to build a relationship, use your ability to ask open-ended questions, and use your power of persuasion to convince these people that they're trying that by helping you, they're helping themselves get to the same goal the company wants to
Mm.
be at. Because guess what? All those people inside, if you stop bringing in the business, they're not getting paid anymore either. They
Right.
don't get paid unless you bring the deal in.
Mhm.
Very, very, very important aspect. You are the quarterback of their life. They may not know it, you may not feel it, but if it's not for you bringing in the business,
Right.
there's no function for them. There's nothing for them to do day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a very valuable position. Very valuable. All of them are.
It,
But
none are bigger than anybody else, but understand how big your role is. It's not you're not out there just willy nillying it for paycheck every other Friday. They're paying you because you're producing something,
agreed, agreed, or that'll change.
or that'll change.
Well, Mike, I do. We are out of time, so we're gonna wrap up. Do you have any closing comments?
Thank you all for joining me on this journey. I really appreciate it. As an FYI, I do have a book and video series that's going to be coming out with a study guide that's going to also be based on my book. I don't know the pricing yet. It should be somewhere south of $100, but that will be coming. It's a 10 video course. A little bit different than what we've talked about here, but all original stuff. Every time I talk about my book, I take general notes. I try not to repeat all the stories again and again in the same way. I've got enough stories where I can come up with a new one each time I tell you one.
That's okay. We'll keep you on your toes. We'll come up with some new stuff. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mike. It's been a pleasure having you here. I
Thank
want
you.
to remind everybody that we will be back on June 26th, 12 p.m. Mountain Standard.